So let's chat this up, shall we? First, we see, to be quite clear, these enemies are very powerful. We see both of them, tearing apart normal human soldiers incredibly easily. It's almost sad the way the Hellsing troops are just cut down bit by bit. It's brutal, grotesque, and quite namely, of course, for this show, entertaining. I mean, Christ, so many dead, so fast, and such a brutal manner. It's just whoa. That being said, Jan Valentine was the first to meet his end, I believe, and he kills a lot of people, and then, of course, though, he meets his end first through Walter. This is the first time we see Walter fight using, as we come to know, the microfilament wires. And like I said, if you're hoping for explanation, not even I can give you that. Nothing has been confirmed or denied for Walter's origin, the nature of his power, how he controls it, how it works. None of that's been confirmed. Basically, kind of just tossed it to us and said, "Here it goes." It's incredibly badass how it works, and it's been imitated since in other animes. But the basic nature of his power, he creates these little wires, which are at times visible and at times not visible, basically because he moves so fast. I assume he controls them with his mind, but also body movement. And these wires are useful for not only restraining opponents, but also basically just slicing them in pieces. Because, like I said, there's some kind of steel metal, but they're also blessed, which is why they glow. And they can put a slice through damn near anything. Basically, there's nothing in the whole series we didn't see it slice through. You know, humans, vampires, buildings. These wires are unstoppable once they're unleashed. And we see it, take off one of Jan Valentine's arms. We slice through armies of ghouls. It shows just how much of a badass Walter is. He tells everybody he's a retired vampire hunter, but he was a master of his game, and we hear his title, which will come up later, and we'll understand. He is the Angel of Death, said so by Alucard and himself, and we see this come to fruition later on in the series, although to a much different nature. And we also see, of course, Ceres' new weapon, the Harkonnen, which is basically just a humongous anti-tank rifle, as it was called in the abridged series, which is basically just anti-tank gun, and summing it up, it's a very big gun, fires very big ammunition, and causes a whole lot of havoc. And it's very interesting to see that. And then, of course, the highlight of the episode has to be Alucard versus Luke Valentine. Luke Valentine is an artificial vampire, just like his brother. However, he has much more incredible speed, because once the fight between Alucard and Luke starts, Alucard cannot land a beat on him with the Jackal or the castle, for that matter. And the bullets, blaze about his little basement keeping area, because I guess the walls are, I forget what you call that, bulletproof. I'm not entirely sure, but the bullets bounce around to finally one hits one wall, namely the door, which blows it completely away. And then that's when Luke realizes how much, how deep of shit he's in. Alucard, looking at just his speed alone, assumes that Luke Valentine is in fact this great vampire like himself, a true vampire. And then, of course, unleashes, the first time we see him unleash his restriction levels. I believe this is level, not too sure, but it's actually a level, I'm assuming level 3? Since we see him do this about 3 or 4 times, and it's only till he unleashes his ultimate power, it's called level 0, but the whole point of the matter is he releases his inner power because, as soon as one of the burdens placed on him by the Hellsing family to stop him from going balls out crazy all the time. And when he releases this level of power, he becomes something not even like a man anymore. It's just insane. Basically speaking, he becomes faster, and he unleashes what has become known to fans as the Hound of Baskerville, called by Walter later on, but basically just weird apparition. It's like this floating dog thing with multiple eyes and, of course, a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth, which Alucard uses to not only eat freaking Luke Valentine, but he also uses it, of course, to fly around. And as the show shows, Alucard is not a man in any sense of the word, or even a vampire, as the Major says. I'll explain what the Major is in episode 3, but because while the dog is flying around, we see the arm of Alucard itself appear out of the mouth of Baskerville and shoot Luke Valentine with the Jackal, which blows his legs off. And of course, the Jackal prevents him from regenerating, so he's left legless after he loses both of his limbs, which becomes a true victim to Alucard. And I love this because this is when we first see Alucard's sadistic side and his love for battle, as when we learn why he loves fighting so much. Because even with, Luke clearly scared out of his mind and sitting there legless, Alucard's telling him to what else? Heal his wounds, stand up and fight. The knight is so young, and he's expecting this grand battle between the two of them. However, when Luke, basically pussies out and says, "You're a monster," Alucard loses all respect for him and calls him dog shit. A title that will stay with Luke Valentine for basically the rest of the series. And then Alucard, like I said, eats him and consumes him. We quite interestingly see the blood sucked up through Alucard without even having to, open his mouth. He just sucks into his very own being as if he has control over it from his mind or, whatever powers. And it just goes to show what kind of, creature Alucard is, a sadistic creature who does not mind torturing his enemies before finally ending it. And I thought that was interesting. And also speaking of which, you also see the darker side of Ceres, who also has this inner bloodlust. But of course, this is just hinting of what kind of creature she'll become later on. We only see her briefly engage the soldiers in this manner before Integra calms her down. But that's important to notice because this builds up for later on. And then, of course, at the very end, we see hints of the Millennium Organization. And then, of course, it ends. But the cool thing with the OVA, though, is that we see in the credits a preview of what's coming next. We see, namely, the funeral of all the Hellsing soldiers who were killed during the invasion. And it's quite awesome. I love the music. The music by Hayato Matsuo, who basically did the music for all 10 OVAs. It's incredible composing. It's really great. It shows the epicness of what's going to happen and really just the grand scale of everything about this show. The particular track I'm speaking of is called Merce Funebre. This is, I believe, German or Latin, but basically means funeral march. And because during the credits we see Integra presiding over the funeral of all the soldiers killed, and of course Walter and Ceres are there. But we also see glimpses of characters who will appear in the next Hellsing episode, namely Maxwell, who is the head of Iscariot, and we see Tubal-Cain Alhambra, excuse me, I need some water. Tubal-Cain Alhambra, who he is one of the lead soldiers of the Millennium Organization, and he will meet Alucard and friends in the next episode. But of course, every episode shows a little bit of either the past or the future, what's going to happen, and I always appreciate those. They look fantastic, the animation is gorgeous, and the music is always great. Like I said, so overall, this is definitely one of my favorite episodes. It's great. It's too bad we don't see any more of the Valentine Brothers. We'll see a bit of Luke later on, episode 9. But for the most part, yeah, this is where they appear and they end because, yeah, they get massacred by Hellsing. But they do serve their purpose. They basically tell Hellsing what's going to happen later on, and the fact that there is someone out there to get them beyond just, run-of-the-muck vampires. There's someone out there organized and very, with advanced technology to keep making artificial vampires for them to go up against. So, yeah, it's a very interesting episode. I freaking loved it. The animation was great, and as the animation's already kind of developed beyond what it was in episode 1. It's already changed quite a bit. And it's just fantastic. I love this one very much. I do love the fact that we get to see a bit of what it takes to be the leader of Hellsing, because after the invasion's all over, we see the fact that Hugh Irons tells Integra that it's your duty to kill all the vampirized, or I should say ghoul, Hellsing soldiers who walk around like mindless zombies. It's up to her to put them down permanently. And, we see the pain it takes to be the leader of Hellsing, and that's pretty much Integra's role in the whole OVA, the power struggle of having to be the leader of the organization. And Integra herself is basically a character who's very young. She's not even in her 30s, and she's forced these monumental decisions between life and death. And her decisions affect the consequences of many major outcomes in the story. And she, it's Alucard's hand, as Alucard himself says many times, I can do all of this for you, however, it's your will that commands the killing. So every time he puts someone down, it's because of her words, and basically she is killing them herself in a sense, which is why she always Yuji expresses a lot of hesitation to do something, but at the end she knows it has to be done, and so she does it. And I just love that aspect of the whole story. You know, Alucard is the greatest weapon in the world. However, Integra herself is still the person pulling the trigger every time. And that's between enemies and allies alike, or helpless human soldiers that we see in episode 3. It doesn't matter. She's pulling the trigger, and sometimes the job just has to be done, even if she regrets it very much. And so we have, Integra, the person who's pulling the trigger, Alucard, the monster, Ceres, who's still learning as a soldier, and Walter, who has his own very lethal capabilities, and a new opponent for them, Millennium. It's very interesting to see all of this, and like I said, episode 2 was fantastic, one of my favorites, and of course one of the funniest in their Bridge series, of course. But that pretty much wraps up my rating of this one, Hellsing Ultimate 2. Let's talk about the comments, guys, and let's get into this. Peace out.